Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is our first official bill signing ceremony of this legislative session, and probably appropriate. It is a truly bipartisan effort. It is an effort led by, in the Senate, by Senator Westland and, of course, by Representative Frazier. But also, it is our partners who make this happen. The folks at Do Canines. Mentioning this, you're going to hear in a minute from Jeff Johnson, someone who's dedicated his life to public service in Minnesota and turned the next chapter of that into incredible work of providing these incredible service animals who remind folks of this. These are working dogs. They're not pets. They're super cute. We love them to death, but they change lives. They make mobility and the ability to participate in all aspects of life in Minnesota better for people. And the idea that every single person in Minnesota should have access to everything they want to do to live their lives to the fullest, these animals and the work that's being done. A special thank you to the Commission on Deaf, Blind, and Hard of Hearing for the work they do in so many spaces. And again, these service dogs are the things that allow people to do the work they want to do, to enjoy the entertainment they want to do, to interact with family the way they want to do. And in Minnesota, it is a core principle that everyone should be able to participate in all aspects of life. So this is incredible work, and this bill just makes the case of it. These are not pets. These are not nice-to-have things. These are absolutely critical for the quality of life of the people who need them, and the folks who train them know that it takes a lot of work and a lot of specialty work. And you'll hear a little bit from the authors of the bill, just making sure that these working dogs, that these incredible service animals and the people who train them and the people who own them are not discriminated against for simply asking to be able to have access. So they make a healthier, happier, safer, more inclusive Minnesota. Couldn't be prouder to be able to sign this piece of legislation, and just grateful for the partners who make this a priority. I had the privilege of working with some of these folks, and at the time it was Senator Franken carried the bill when I was serving as a ranking member on the House Veterans Affairs Committee. Making access to service animals for our veterans was a priority, and to see the folks at Do Canines take that to all access for everyone, Minnesota should be very proud, and we're very lucky to have this type of leadership. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our Senate lead on this bill, Senator Bonnie Westland.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Senator Bonnie Westland. I represent Senate District 42, which includes Plymouth, a part of Maple Grove, and also Medicine Lake. I am so proud to stand here today. This is one of those small things that we do in the course of the legislative session that often does not get the attention that it deserves. And this bill actually changes lives. This will ensure that individuals actively training service dogs will have full and equal access to housing accommodations in Minnesota. As the governor mentioned, service dogs play a vital role in the lives of so many Minnesotans, providing essential support and independence to individuals with disabilities. The journey to becoming a fully trained service dog requires volunteer time, dedication, and importantly, access to various environments, including housing. Prior to this legislation, volunteers often faced barriers when seeking housing accommodations, hindering the training process and consequently the availability of well-prepared service dogs for those in need. In fact, I know Jeff Johnson will be speaking about this, but they rely very heavily on volunteers to train service dogs. With the enactment of this bill, we will be removing those barriers, and we will be affirming our commitment to inclusivity and support for both the volunteers and the future service dog users. This achievement is the result of a deeply collaborative effort among local service dog organizations, volunteers, and individuals with disabilities. Together, we've taken a significant step toward a more accessible and compassionate Minnesota. I want to thank everyone who contributed to this important work to helping us get this bill over the finish line, and hope to continue to champion policies that will uphold the rights and the dignity of all Minnesotans. Thank you so much. And up next will be Representative Frazier.
Good morning, everyone. Representative Cedric Frazier, District 43A, Cities of Crystal and New Hope. And the pleasure I have is that Do Canines is just a few blocks from my home. My wife and I we walk past it on our walks when we get a chance to. And, you know, this at the foundational level, this was a pretty easy bill for me to carry. It was a no-brainer. Since I've come into the legislature, I've often talked about making Minnesota the most inclusive state that it can be for all Minnesotans. And this bill does exactly that. It allows for more volunteers to be accessible to train these dogs. And as the governor said, and as the senator said, and as Mr. Johnson will say, these dogs aren't just pets. These animals, these dogs will allow people to live their most independent and fulfilled lives. And that is what, at the foundation level, we want to do here in Minnesota. So I was proud to carry the bill, and I won't take long, and I'll just say I'm glad to get this bill signed, and thank you, Governor, for having this opportunity to highlight this. We often talk about heavy things that make the headlines, but this truly is something very important for Minnesotans to create a very inclusive state. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Johnson. I'm Executive Director at Do Canines, and we raise and train assistance dogs for people with multiple different types of disabilities. We've been around for 36 years, and we're the largest organization of our kind in Minnesota, and actually one of the largest in the country. And I am just so pleased to be here today. I had assumed that I'd be talking to you all much more often in this room than what turned out. But I'm happy that we're all here together.
There's days I wish you were.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. I want to thank Bonnie and Cedric and their staff members for all the work that they put into this. It wasn't always easy. We had a few bumps along the way, so thank you so much for your dedication to this, your belief in our mission. I want to thank Alicia Lane and the Commission of the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing for supporting this, and they are with us today. And also Patrick Hines from Messerly for helping us work out a compromise with the HOAs to make this work and not turn this into a big battle. And then finally, I want to thank Mo Shaver for giving Do Canines many, many hours of shepherding this bill pro bono for us through the legislature. This wouldn't have happened without you, Mo. Thank you. And of course, Governor, I want to thank you for signing this bill today and also believing in us. I think the last time we talked, honestly, was late one night in November of 2018 when I called you through gritted teeth to congratulate you on a big victory. And I like this conversation much better than that one, so thank you for that. We at Do Canines, we have 52 employees, but we rely very, very heavily on volunteers to do what we do. Some of those volunteers are inmates. All of our dogs spend 6 months to a year in prisons in Minnesota and Wisconsin being trained, but even more of those volunteers are individuals and families, about 1,000 of them who raise these dogs and train these dogs and frankly fall in love with these dogs. They become part of their families, and then they give them back to us. Our volunteers are amazing, and it is the biggest challenge that we have is finding volunteers to do that for us, because it's not a small ask at all. And since I've been at Do Canines, I've had multiple people tell me that they would raise dogs for us, but for their HOAs prohibiting that. That changes today. And because of this new law, there will be more amazing dogs like Mata here to change the lives of more amazing people. So I just want to thank you, everyone who made this happen, and again, thank you, Governor, for signing this bill today. I would like to introduce you to Lydia and Flint. Lydia is one of our clients, and she's a student at Hamlin. So come on up, Lydia.
Thanks, Jeff.
Can you sit? Good boy. Hi, everyone. My name is Lydia, and I am a 20-year-old college student at Hamlin University. I received Flint through Do Canines beginning of February, and just in the few short months that I have had him, he has changed my life significantly. I have been able to take on more academically and socially than I could have ever possibly imagined. He not only has changed my life, but he has saved my life. And this organization is truly so incredible. And Flint. And it wouldn't be possible without the incredible and selfless volunteers to help train these dogs at no compensation. It is truly amazing. So thank you for everyone for creating this bill. It has truly made Minnesota a great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica, and this is my dog, Jessie. This is her name sign, J2, because our names start with J. I'm a deaf-blind Minnesotan, and I'm a contractor with Commission of Deaf, Blind, and Hard of Hearing. When Alicia contacted me to talk about this bill with service animals, now understand, this is my third service dog that I've gotten from New York, specially trained to work with deafblind folks. And I was so excited to hear about this bill. And so Elisa was talking to me and telling me how we could support this bill. And she was describing to me how folks train service dogs in their home for no charge and for no fees, and how they train service dogs to be able to help Minnesotans in their home. And they shouldn't have to have an extra charge from where they live to be able to train service dogs. Because they need to be trained to be able to fit with the individuals that they serve, and there shouldn't be as extra costs for that. Because once these dogs graduate, they need to be able to live in many different areas or many different environments with their individuals that they serve. And that burden shouldn't be on the individuals who need the dogs nor the individuals who train them. Everyone, we're all humans in this room. We all deserve the same rights. We can acknowledge our mistakes, for sure, yes, and have responsibility, but does that mean that we have to be charged extra fees for what we need to live like these service dogs? No, they should not. And there are differences, like we've said, between dogs and pets, or between service dogs and pets. Service dogs are workers. And yes, there are times when service dogs have times in their downtimes where they're more like pets. I mean, right? People go to work every day and they also have downtime. It's the same as service dogs. So I would like to thank everyone for your support in recognizing the importance of in-home service animal training for our communities who would qualify for the service dogs after months of that training experience. This bill is very important for many of us who need this service to allow our service dogs to be with us in our living spaces so we can maintain our independence. I would like to thank everyone in support of this bill. And I would like to thank the governor for signing this bill into law. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to Jessica, to Lydia, to Jeff's leadership, to the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing Commission, and especially to these good dogs who are here to improve lives. This bill reflects the best that Minnesota has to offer, and it reflects legislating in the spirit of helping people. We'll sign it, and then we'll be able to take a few questions if you'd like. It's the law. I feel like we should have had dog treats there for this. If we were giving the pens, I think we dropped the ball on an opportunity there. But again, grateful. We would certainly take some on-topic questions and a few off-topic if you have them afterwards of anybody who's here.
It wasn't common, but it came up. I've been at Do Canines for about 4.5 years, and I would say it's come up 8 or 10 times. My guess is there are probably a lot more people out there who would never have brought it up, but this will help. It will actually make a real difference in what we do.
That's the most important part.
Yes. So this dog is Mato, M-A-T-O, which is Lakota for bear, I'm told. And she is a dog in training. She still has a few months left and has a little work to do, but she will change someone's life. Lydia, you want to?
My dog is named Flint.
Is there an estimate on how many of these dogs are working in Minnesota?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that question, but I know that we have several hundred at Do Canines, and there are obviously other organizations that do this in Minnesota. So I'm sure it's over 1,000.
Jeff will be glad to answer the off-topic on the budget, on the budget negotiations. And so, well, thank you all. Thanks to the folks that are here. Again, a good way to sign a bill, hopefully opening the floodgates for a cascade of signing coming up. But be glad to take any questions. Pardon me? Yeah, look, I understand this as a longtime educator, as someone who very much values this, of someone who is very proud of what we announced yesterday, the state's highest graduation rates ever, that I think is coupled because of the historic investments we make, the free lunches for breakfast, and of course the child tax credit. And I certainly respect parents' decisions about their children's education, but our first and fundamental responsibility is for public education. And as we see across the country, this movement to voucherize public education, I think here in Minnesota we need to stay focused on what our core job is and make sure that we're funding that accordingly, because it becomes a situation where we're shifting the money from one to the other. And the position that we're in is that we're investing the right way, and we're getting the results that we hope we would.
Are you finding interest in paring back some of the things that Democrats passed in 2024's negotiations?
Well, I'll give just the value statement on this, and I think I've held true to that. I think you can't go into a negotiation unless you are open to making compromise. And on this case, that is a necessity with a split House. I've said there are certain core values that we're not going to move on. I am not going to make it a capital crime to get an and a vaccine, obviously. So there's some things that have been proposed that no, there's no compromise on. But on the rest of it, as long as the core principles of what we've done, I'm open to that. I think we have come in getting an understanding that we will leave several $1 billion on the bottom line. We will be able to have a positive balance in the second biennium, again, reminding folks that only 12 states even look that way. We're only constitutionally obligated to balance this first budget. But I think we're really have come to the conclusion that those drivers that are in there, that we can slow growth and still deliver services. But yeah, I'm open to it, and I think those are the decisions that come up. If some of those things are being asked to make modifications to, as long as the spirit and the impact that we get out of them remains the same, we're always willing to try and make some tweaks around them. Well, I'm not going to speak specifically to the bill, but it's that type of spirit of it if you're bringing something forward to see if there's there, as long as the, again, the spirit and the impact of the law, because these are very popular programs, whether it's paid family medical leave, earned safe and sick time, that allow people to do their life, continue to keep their jobs. And what we know is in the long run, you get better retention, you get better economic benefits out of it. But certainly open to hear what they're doing. They're working on these things. The question we've got right now is that the clock is ticking. We've got to come to some of these conclusions, and this is kind of the way that the legislating happens, that we have got to come to some conclusions. We've got to button this thing up. We've got to get the work done. And then, as I've always said, there's probably no law that was written perfectly the first time. Continue to improve on it. But we do have work to do. We're in solid shape. The budget situation, again, is over the horizon by cost drivers that are accelerating beyond our ability to be able to pay for them. But it doesn't mean that the decisions we're making negatively impact Minnesotans. In fact, it's just the opposite. It protects these programs going out. Again, those are negotiation pieces in there. I will make my value statement on this is people get that health care anyway. They go to the emergency room. We pay for it anyway. It's more expensive, both from an economic perspective, getting folks in where they can get preventative care. From a public health perspective on communicable diseases, it makes sense to get people covered. From an economic perspective, you're better to have people be healthy so that they can go to work and contribute. We certainly continue to ask for the resources to make sure that we value immigration, but it's done in a legal manner. And so the discussion being is, does it make sense for us to roll back a program that I think both morally and economically is working, but I understand from a Republican perspective they want us to discuss it. And I've said I am certainly open to them, but don't want to compromise my values around that. And I have said if there's a red line in this, I just think morally we have got to cover children. These were not decisions that these children made, whether they're here documented or undocumented. They're here, and it just makes sense that they get their childhood vaccinations, they get their checkups. If they break an arm playing outside, that they can go and get it. They're going to go to the emergency room anyway. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of collaboration in this, and we're seeing that. If I asked several months ago for the tools necessary, one of the things is the data sharing and my capacity and the legal capacity that when we suspect and have enough information to believe someone committing fraud against the state to be able to stop those payments. We've had legal decisions that have said, no, you don't have that ability, and there's things that we put in there. I understand that this Office of Inspector General, I think it's our take that moving over to BCA, seeing some of the things we're doing, I'm not sure that that is the most efficient use of the resources to do it, but if the legislature can come to some type of conclusion, I said I'm certainly open to it, because I think amongst everyone else, is the theft of public funds needs to be a top priority. It needs to be prosecuted. We've seen people take advantage of loopholes and continue to. So I'm open to what they bring. I'm just not convinced amongst the experts that it is the most efficient way to get to what we're trying to get at. But if the legislature comes to a different conclusion, if we can get votes out of the House and Senate, I said I'm certainly open to that. Yeah.
And that's kind of interesting because Republicans like that too. First, this was our idea, but it didn't make any of the bill.
Yeah, That is surprising, and I'm still negotiating on that. And for some of you, I know the folks here, but tracking this, that we've seen real advancements in this. And one of the things is it's very cumbersome to pour through this data. Once you start to see these things and you start to see them side by side, it's almost an aha moment and say, this is the same pattern we saw here. If they did it here, they're doing it here. And the goal is, you know, we will arrest you, we will catch you, we will arrest you, and we'll put you in prison. But it is far better if we have the firewall on the front end, if we're preventing it before they ever touch the money. And the AI has proven to be incredibly effective. And I said on some panels, I've worked with other governors, we're seeing this used in some really unique and efficient ways. I use the example I keep talking about, foster placements in the state of New York. And a foster placement is a successful placement, stays in that foster home, and we get the outcomes that we're looking for. AI has been more successful in doing that in New York than it was by people doing it alone because of the complexities involved. It can crunch that data. So I'm glad you brought this up. I would really encourage the legislature to take a hard look at this, because I believe the use of AI and some of the things that we're running through will be transformational on the front end of things, where it will show up and say, again, we're changing procedures on this, and I've made it clear, go out and visit these places. We just don't have enough people, if they're moving 24/7, to visit every single provider of some of these things, but AI can do a lot of that on the billing. So I think you can do both. I think you can do both, and I think they're simultaneous. I don't know exactly. I don't want to speak for them of how they saw that. I don't think it's that the data is not there. It's the problem is the firewalls between sharing some of that data and my capacity to do it. And there are takes on this that I say, just common sense wise, this group or this person was using this state program, and we know that they committed fraud. That same group is receiving payments over here. I don't know about all of you, but I think it's a logical conclusion to say they're doing it over here too. Let us do that. We don't have the capacity to do that in some cases. We don't have the legal authority to stop payments on those, and we don't have the capacity sometimes because they're operating under different LLCs or whatever it may be, names, even though it's the same person, to be able to connect them. So I don't think it's the data that's bad. I'm assuming they were talking about we should be able to get the laws changed, which I know they're working on, that allows us to share that data across. And I think all of you know that it's a little more complex than you think on this data sharing piece, because we're seeing this at the federal level. There's very good reasons in some cases to keep our data segregated, because what you don't want is the federal or the state government to have one universal database about everything in your personal lives. So we're being very thoughtful about business entities doing business with the state is different than one centralized data source on every single person in Minnesota. So I think that there's complexity on this. I think the good news in this whole story is there is bipartisan, nearly unanimous support that there's more that we can do. There's more authority that we can put into it. There's more teeth. There's more legal changes and a commitment to this. Because, again, whether you like these programs or not, there is an incentive on both sides to protect taxpayer dollars, because if you like these programs, when people steal from them, it makes it harder to fund them. If you don't like these programs, you're angry in the first place that the money's going out, but you're super angry if it's going out to people who shouldn't have it. So I think we've hit a sweet spot in this where we're going to get a good fraud package out of this. I've simply put together the folks who actually do this work every day, and I think we have the best BCA in the country, and I think putting it over with them as we've done, we're seeing a lot of advancements. You got time for one or two? We go somebody. I got to get somebody else. Anybody else? I think it's pretty good. Now, we're all going to be up there on the boat. We're going up to Cross Lake. We're excited about this. All of the legislative leaders will be up there Saturday morning. We did this before. The last time we really had, I think, like a serious interaction, and there was walleye diplomacy was back in 2019 down in Albert Lee. Fishing wasn't great. It was snowing. That's going to be a little different on Saturday. But there was a lot of collaboration. And I do think it's worth stating. And again, the results are all that are going to matter for Minnesota, but I do think the process actually matters. The sense of respect, the sense of collegiality, respecting others' opinion. I have to say the discussions that are in the room right now with all the people coming into it are pretty uplifting just because of the decency of how it's being done. Now, again, that might be easy to say if we're not doing hard compromises, but we're inching closer to those things, and I think the leadership that's in that room, I congratulate all of them. They're approaching this in the best interest of Minnesota. They're advocating strongly for their caucuses and their heartfelt positions, but they're also trying to listen to the other side. So I'm actually really looking forward to this. I think this will continue on. It's not that unusual. We came back in 2019, did not get a deal until after Mother's Day. It is getting late, that is an acknowledgement, but I think that there is a commitment to getting this thing done on time, a commitment to balancing the budget as we're required to do both in the first biennium. I think there's strong consensus that it makes sense to do it in the second, and then to take a big bite out of a structural imbalance that shows up in 28, 29. If we do that, we put Minnesota on a really strong path. And I think they're committed to that. So I'm excited about it. I'm glad you didn't ask if there would be a walleye caught. It was easier to talk about this. So that always puts me in a tough spot. But thank you all for being here, and thanks to the folks here who serve Minnesota. Appreciate it.
How late were you here last night?
10:30. 10:30. And that was about 12 hours yesterday. So I'm like doing carrots right now. I'm pretty disciplined. So this is a bad time of year for me. So thank you.